The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to the podcast, another episode today. And look, it was Team List Tuesday yesterday. So the Eels team for the second trial came out yesterday, and I thought I'd just run through it because during the season we'll have a Team List Tuesday podcast and of the Eels team, and also I will do the predictions and my tips for the week on a Tuesday, and that'll probably come out on a Wednesday. So anyway, the Eels take on the Titans up in Ipswich on Sunday, kicking off at 5 p.m. Now the match will be broadcast live on Fox League and KO Sports, and this is the second week of trials, second week of the NRL pre-season challenge. And look, this is a pretty good looking squad for the Eels. Now, just before I get into this, I thought I'd do this one, and because it sort of coincides with what I put in the broadcast channel on my Instagram channel, the Paracave Podcast broadcast channel on Instagram. So if you want to get some news there, please follow that one. And I put up a I guess you could say a comment, not a post, but a comment saying, would you like to hear my thoughts of a start round one predicted Eels starting team? And I got some comment or some likes back. So it sort of coincides with that, because this week's team to take on the Titans is very similar to what I would think would be a round one starting side. Now, let me just run through the side for this week, and we'll start at the fullback. Clint Gutherson, Micah Sevo and Sean Russell on the wings, Will Penasini, Bailey Simonson in the centres. In the forwards, Junior Paolo, Regan Campbell-Gillard, Joey Lussick gets the starting position in at hooker. Sean Lane, Bryce Cartwright, Jermaine Hopgood, and on the interchange bench, Brendan Hands, Wiramu Greg, Joe Offahengawi, Kelma Tulagi, and the 18 through to 22 man, which I think they can all use as it is a trial game anyway. Ryan Madison, Morgan Harper, Hayes Dunster, Dijon Arcee, and Blaze Talagi. Now, look, that is a pretty good looking squad. And look, the Gold Coast Titans, they've put up a pretty good squad as well. I think they're only missing Jaden Campbell and also David Fafita as well. But their forward pack looks pretty strong. And usually the second week of trials is generally when we will see I guess you could say, the top-rated players who you would probably expect to see play in round one. They get a run themselves. How long they'll play for, who knows? They may play for 20 minutes, 40 minutes. They may play the whole game, but usually they might play one half, and then the young guns will come on in the second half and play the rest of that. It's just about getting a bit of a run in the legs and under game simulation, and against opposition as well. So obviously they might have had a few games at training, but there's nothing like the real thing. So look, that squad for Parramatta is probably what I would think it would look like in round one. Now, there has been a lot of talk over the off-season and a few potential comments from Brad Arthur saying that he may go for one hooker and only an 80-minute hooker. Now, my personal thoughts on that is I don't like it. I like to have a hooker on the bench as well. I think most of the top clubs would have two hookers in the squad. So obviously a starting one and one as number 14, who could probably maybe play another position here and there, like Brendan Hands, who's this week's 14. He could play 5'8". He could play halfback as well, obviously hooker as well. So he's a little bit versatile. Has played a bit of 5'8" before at Penrith, and also in the lower grades in the New South Wales Cup at Parramatta. So, look, in terms of 1 to 7, so this is my predicted lineup for round 1 versus the Bulldogs at Commbank Stadium on Saturday, the 9th of March at, I do believe it is 5:30 p.m. So hope to see you guys, the listeners out there. I'll definitely be there. Can't wait for this one. Hopefully we can get a 25,000, even a sellout. That'd be great. Get 30,000 there at Commbank Stadium against the arch rivals, the Bulldogs. Round 1. Does it get any better? Who knows? The return again of Reid Marnie back to Commbank Stadium. We all know what happened last year. There was a lot of talk between the guys about this game, and look, Parramatta got the last laugh beating the Bulldogs, but it's a new look Bulldogs side, but we'll get into that one a little bit later, closer to the game, obviously, which is in about 2 weeks to 3 weeks. So we'll see how we go with that one. So anyway, my round 1 predicted side to take on the Bulldogs, 1 to 7 in this trial game against the Titans. It looks probably what I would have. So Gutherson, Sevo, Penasini, Simonson, Russell, Dylan Brown, and Mitchell Moses. I think that will be the 1 to 7 in round 1. I think probably, Sean Russell has won that other wing spot over Hayes Dunster at this stage, and I think we saw this team probably run out 1 to 7 last year, so I think that'll be the 1 to 7. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. I think to this trial team, I'd probably make 1 or 2 changes. So the changes that I'd probably make, although it is a trial, so everyone's got to get a run. So that's the only other problem anyway. So, look, okay, so to the Bulldogs game, the forwards, this is where I'll probably make 1 or 2 changes to this team for round 1. Now, as it stands at the moment in the trial game, we've got Regan Campbell-Gillard, Joey Lussick, Junior Paolo, Sean Lane, Bryce Cartwright, Jermaine Hopgood. Now, the only player that I'd change out of there is I would put Brendan Hands in at hooker, number 9. And look, if Brad is going to go with an 80-minute hooker, I think he could probably do it. He's a young player, and I think he had a little bit of experience from last year playing that position with the injuries to Josh Hodgson, and Joey Lussick only came late in the season, very late in the season, I should say. So he did get that little bit of experience there, and look, I'm sure he could handle it. So I would put him in at number 9. I would also probably promote Ryan Madison to a bench spot, so to take Brendan Hand's number 14 position, and I think that would be probably the only changes that I'd make at this stage with this side. So I'd put Madison on the bench, I'd put Hands in at hooker, I'd probably drop Joey Lussick. Look, if it doesn't work for the first couple of weeks, if Parramatta get victories but the whole one hooker doesn't work, then I'd probably go back to I'd start with I'd start with Joey Lussick, and then I'd have Brendan Hands on the bench and bring him on after about 25, maybe 30 minutes to play a bit of a 30-minute role, I guess. So to play, before half time and just after half time, when the big forwards or the opposition are getting tired, he can find those spaces through the ruck and just do those darting runs. So that's what I'd probably do. But for round one, I'd probably go Brendan Hands in at hooker. I'd promote Ryan Madison to the bench, and other than that, I'd probably leave it. Look, there has been a little bit of talk, and I thought it might have been a little bit of a suggestion, so let me know what you think. But I feel that Parramatta probably lose a little bit of go forward with Regan Campbell-Gillard and Junior Paolo when they are substituted off the field at the same time. That's just my opinion. I know a few other people have said that as well, but that's just my opinion. So in order to conquer that, what I would do is there's a good point and a bad point. I think I would start with RCG. I'd put Wiramu Greg to partner him in the front row, and I'd move Junior Paolo to Wiramu Greg's spot on the bench. Now, as I said, there's good and there's bad to that. So we have seen sometimes in the past how Junior probably gets a little bit excited coming off the bench and throws a few offloads and the like in Origin. But I just think the only reason I would do that is so we lose a bit of go forward when both our starting props are off the field. So Wiramu Greg definitely stepped up last year when RCG was suspended, and I think Junior had a week or two as well. So, and when Junior was in Origin as well. So, look, I think he's in for a big season, and I think he can probably get a starting spot. And look, Junior to go to the bench. The only other thing is that Junior is co-captain, so would you really want to have your co-captain on the bench? I mean, probably not. But it could be a tactic that could be used. Who knows? Look, I'm really excited to see Kelma Tulagi play again. He was one of the best against Canberra last week in the trial game. And I like the fact that he's big, he's got size, got mobility, and I'm really looking forward to him settling into this Parramatta side, the way they play, and look, potentially getting a starting spot in that second row. So I think probably Sean Lane will probably hold down that spot most of the year, but I think Kelma is in competition with Bryce Cartwright for that starting second row spot. So if Kelma starts, then I think Bryce may go back to the bench, but we'll just have to see. I mean, Bryce had a great season last year when majority Sean Lane was out for majority. Bryce stepped up in that position, and he really had a good season last year. So getting back to his best football that we know he can play. So I think Kelma and Bryce are playing for that spot. Look, if Brad's only going for one hooker, an 80-minute hooker, then we have seen Jermaine Hopgood step into that hooker position before. He has played that in lower grades. He hasn't played it in NRL, but he has played that in lower grades at Penrith, as well as when he first started playing rugby league as well. So he does have a little bit of experience, but probably hasn't played there for a long while. So I wouldn't bank on that, but it's always an option. If something happens and you've got an 80-minute hooker and something happens, then maybe he could step into that role as well, because we all know that he can play for 80 minutes plus, and great defender, and he has played that position before. So, look, that's my thoughts on a predicted round one side. I think it will be pretty much even to this side that we see run out on Sunday against the Titans. As I said, I would probably only have that change of Brendan Hands in at hooker and Ryan Madison on the bench as well. So let me know your thoughts on your predicted team for the Parramatta Eels in round 1. I really hope you enjoyed my thoughts on that. Let me know if you have a few changes that you would make. Am I right? Are you right? Is the coach right? Let me know. Drop me a comment or a message or whatever you would like to see, and let me know if let me know if I'm right, you're right, or the coach is right, or what your opinion is. Happy to listen to everyone's opinion, because that's what the great game of rugby league is all about. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to please subscribe to the podcast on the platform that you are listening to at the moment, and also to follow the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as well. And there's a little bit of content on TikTok as well. So if you could give me a follow on that, that would be most appreciated. Thank you very much for listening. And as I said at the start of the podcast, I think Team List Tuesday, there will be a podcast done on the Tuesday. It may come out late on the Tuesday, or it'll definitely be there for you guys on the Wednesday to listen to. It will also have my predictions for my tips for the round of the NRL, so you can either take my tips or not. But thank you very much for listening. Until next time, enjoy your footy.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Parramatta Podcast. See you next time.